check Comcast time. Comcast says 5:30.
Yep.
So are we ready to begin?
Sure.
Somebody's coming. I hear voices in the hall.
Yeah.
Jeremy remote too?
Jeremy's remote. Yeah, he gets stuck in City Hall. Joe and Rob.
Oh, there's another member. We're over quorum now.
Yeah,
Rob, how are you?
good to go.
Although two of them are.
Seen you in a long time, yeah.
Two of them
Anybody
are
else wandering around out there?
Drop off or pickup. I said I see you maybe drop off or pickup.
Yeah, yep.
It was just so
Yeah.
wet.
Only one
Hey.
more.
Are we ready to go, Jim?
Last one there.
That too.
Okay. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:30 something. 5:31. And because we are partially remote and partially live, we will need to call a roll. So I'm going to start with Dave Sawyer. Jason Parento.
Here.
Lori Reagan. Hearing none. Jackie, you're in the room. Jerry, you're in the room. Bill Rooney.
Here.
Terry DeSisto's in the room. Scott Domenici. Don't hear anything. Ed Stanton's in the room. Mark Furtado. Don't hear anything. Rob Geddes is here in the room. Mike Tyler's here in the room. Steve Withers.
It's Mr. Furtado now.
Ah, here's Mark in the room now. Andrew Acosta.
Yes, sir. Careful, I'm sweating.
Gail Clark. I'm in the room. Mayor? Andrew just came in. Okay. Doesn't look like the mayor is with us. Jeremy, have you heard anything from the mayor?
He was going to try to join. He had something that was running up against pretty close. So he said we can get started without him, and you can share for him.
Okay. Good. All right, so we have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so first order of business, as always, is to approve the minutes from June 9th.
Move to approve. Second.
Is there any discussion? Jason?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
And I vote yes. It's unanimous. Okay. As always, we'll skip the bills. Steve, are you ready?
I think so.
You didn't have a lot of confidence in your voice there.
Well, based on this morning's OAC, I have lacking confidence today, but we'll see.
Okay. So why don't you start with the update?
Yep. Okay. All right. How's that? Do we see the building?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so south elevation items of note are we have added some more and installed some more of the rooftop equipment on the south end of the building that you see in various locations here. We continue to make progress on all of the block on the exterior, along the back here, and then along, this is the gym, along this area here. That continues. The rain the past couple weeks hasn't helped, but they're still making good progress inside. We've made some progress with the metal panels. Anything that you see gray here is metal panels. This is the most difficult spot on the building to install metal panels just based on access. So this is running a little slow here, but it was expected to run a little slow. It's going well. It's just not going very quickly. But the left-hand side here, the west end of area A is complete. Area C is complete, so they're working on B here. If we go to the front elevation, we continue with glazing of these curtain wall units that you see here. We continue to make progress on the B elevation, and then they're actually working on some of these corner units that you see here. That it is a little bit of tedious work as well, but making good progress there. Then we'll go to the east and west elevations. Able to install some of the brick on the east elevation that you see here, and that work continues. And then on the west side, same thing. They're getting ready at this elevation here to start with the masonry for this elevation. And then out while we're here, we're working in Rathbun Willard to install some curbing, the brand new curb all along Rathbun Willard on both sides, and we'll eventually be pouring some sidewalks, most of which are concrete, but there are some that are asphalt as well. So that's the progress on the exterior of the building. We also continue to make some progress at the front entranceway here. The next big push you'll see is installation of light pole bases. There's a lot of them on site, and they're starting to come in. So we'll focus up on the front of the building here and then work our way around. As far as the inside of the building, this is a progress shot of fourth floor corridor. It's hard to see, but on the left-hand side here, down the bottom half is all tile. And then right-hand side here, this tile is complete. Making good progress with the tile. If we jump down to third floor, I know it's not exciting, but these are the future bathrooms. A lot of the tile work is complete both outside and inside the bathrooms. And then if we go to, this is second floor. This is actually the auditorium here, and this is all staging. This is what we call the dance floor, and this will stay up for the next couple of months as workers complete all the work that's up high in the auditorium, all the mechanicals, all the finishes, everything that's up high will be done off this dance floor here, and then we'll remove all of this and we'll start on the lower interior finishes and put the seats in and all that good stuff. This is the kind of stuff that for some reason gets us excited because we think it's kind of cool. And then the view, this is looking down at future cafeteria space. Of note here, we did pour out all of the slab on grade, which is good news. It allows us to store some more materials like you see here. And then this is a view, second floor. This is future medical assisting, getting ready to start boarding. You can see we started the board the tops here, finishing our inspections so we can continue to drywall here. This is first floor future marketplace area. Entrance to the building is over here. So this is heading down towards cosmetology and the bank and printing and the market. And then this is a shot of the kitchen. You're going to start to see a lot of progress over the next month in the kitchen area here. A lot of mechanicals are going to start up high. The big ductwork, specialty ductwork will be delivered this week and next week. So we'll see a lot of progress, a lot of activity in there over the next month, actually next few months. This is a shot of carpentry space, or no, this is the automotive space. A lot of interior block work continues in the building. So this is, like I said, this is automotive. These are just door frames here. And then I believe I have a shot of, this is carpentry. So a lot of staging and block everywhere you go on the first floor, but they're actually making really good progress, and it's great work to be doing when it's raining outside, which is nice. Keeps everyone busy. And then this is just a low-level shot of the cafeteria space here. So a lot of block on the first floor, and then you'll start to see a lot of drywall both up in the second floor areas here and down on the first floor over the next month. The goal is to be done with drywall in early September. And then the bigger, larger goal is to be completely enclosed end of November. So there's some work. There's a lot of progress done on these frames and a lot of the glasses in here on both sides. So that's a big step. And then next step would be to tackle the monster back here. That is all glass as well. And then there's entrances down on the first floor here. So overall, we are on schedule. Like I said, the rain has not helped, but we're a little bit ahead in some areas. So it kind of balances out off, and we're contemplating, we'll see how the weather is the next few weeks. If we have to maybe work a couple of Saturdays to catch up a few key trades, but overall, as a whole, the project still remains on schedule.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions on the construction update? Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Steve, I'm thinking you know where this question is probably going to lead to. Thanks for meeting with me last week.
Yep.
Just a concern about the curbing that's going to wrap around Green Drive, where we have a property line kind of issue there. Is there something that you need from this commission to either approve the work that the resident wants or to not approve, I should say?
Mike,
No,
that's
we
a-
are-
That's an interesting issue, and we have our neighbor, Mrs. Arcis, is in the audience. And so we do have some photographs and some things to share. We had an extensive discussion on that this morning. Yeah, they are putting in the curbing and the sidewalks. One of the things we've noticed, and I don't know, Steve, if you have the picture available of that, but on the eastern side of Green Drive, it appears that there's a small retaining wall that's in the sidewalk, and there's also plantings that are probably within the city's right-of-way as well. I understand Derek Corsi has been out to look at this, and is in the process of talking to the homeowner about, I mean, we have the right to do these things, but it's always better to talk to the homeowner and explain what we're doing, because it appears, and I talked with Gary Erasian about this, that the line of sight that was originally approved by the planning board when this neighborhood was approved 25 or 30 years ago, it's just been overgrown, and the line of sight is not as good as it once was, and certainly could use some improvements. So I don't know that we need to take a vote. I don't know that there's a change order, but I think that the city is looking at using its forces to coordinate with our installation of the sidewalk, making sure there's a proper sidewalk, and also doing everything we can to improve the sight lines. Steve, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, Jack, you nailed it. It's just that we're working with Craig and KBA to find a solution that's going to make all parties happy. So to answer Mike's question, there's nothing to vote on or ask for approval on at this time. Craig, unless you've got anything different.
Craig has been taking a look at this. Did you have some photographs that would be helpful? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I can share a little bit of what we talked about earlier today. Let me bring it and share my screen.
Craig, before we proceed, and thank you, Steve and Jack, for that. But you know, I've talked to the homeowner on a couple of occasions, and you know, Public Works, we put in a lot of new sidewalk a year, and you know, we want all of our projects to be a positive project. And so if we can talk all day long about a homeowner having something of personal property in the city layout, but when you're going to do a project of this magnitude, of course, like I said, we want it to be positive. So as long as the homeowner is asking the city to provide something that's not totally out of reach, to make it a positive situation for both the homeowner and the construction project, we've always bended to that need. And I think it's important to also realize these sidewalks that are a main priority for the city of Attleboro in the school zone, that we maintain those as Public Works almost after every storm. So these sidewalks within a mile of every school or Hammond, compared to our other sidewalks throughout the city. And when we do those sidewalks in those areas, we really want to talk people against, reinstalling pressure-treated timbers or these blocks that were built by a homeowner during the weekend or whatever it may be, with something that's more sturdy. Because my sidewalk machines don't know the difference and they don't care the difference. So that's why usually in a situation like this, we would line the whole back of that with granite. Number one, to make sure that we're holding the property back properly, and number two, for maintenance purposes moving forward, that it's something that's going to last for a long time and not become a reoccurring problem. So just a little bit from where I'm coming from on that.
Oh, absolutely, Mike. I think we all agree. Craig, do you want to share your screen? Because I know you
Yep.
have some good pictures.
Sure. I can see it. Is it, oh, there we go. So when we're looking at it, this is the my screen is stuttering on me here, and it's stuttering up there. I apologize. I don't know what's going on. But if we look here, yeah,
Looking away.
it's perfect, as you can tell.
Thanks, Frank.
But as you look here, hopefully it stops stuttering. But when we look at here, we've highlighted where the property line is based on the existing condition surveys you see coming through here. And then the existing curbing is this line here. And as we talk about with the pictures that I'm going to show shortly, this is the location of that retaining wall. It's not in green on this picture, but the retaining wall is this line here. I'm not going to zoom in more because my computer apparently does not like that.
So there are sightline issues with overgrowth in both directions, correct, Craig?
Correct. I mean, it's relatively, I don't think we can be the ones to determine the sightline issues, but it can be said that when we look at it, there's growth over the property lines, or items over the property lines.
And so there are a couple of things that we talked about today doing. First of all, is making sure that we construct the sidewalk and cut the brush back so that the original sight lines can be maintained. And I agree with you, Mike, we need to do something that gives us a permanent solution. The second thing was that we have 4 speed tables as part of this project, and one speed table is actually in our entrance driveway for the main bus loop, so that when people are coming out of the school at the end of the school day, it will make them slow down. But very significantly, and I think for those who live on Green Drive, one of the speed tables is between that bus loop and Green Drive. So that speed table is somewhat very close to where you see on your screen there, where that black swoosh is. And so that will, we believe when that's installed next year, will have a significant calming effect on the traffic. We also have another speed table that is to the west between the Circle and Green Drive. And then we have the 4th speed table, which is on the north-south connector. So the plans, if you take those 4 speed tables and the traffic circle together, we think that the residents will see a significant slowing of traffic in that area. And we also are going to do everything we can to improve the sight lines. So there's what Craig's talking about. There's one speed table right there. And then there's another one over to the west.
Yeah, my computer's not scaling well. I'm sorry. It's messing me up as I try to work on it. But yeah, there's one basically located right here that's off of the screen.
Yep.
And so we're talking about the sidewalk here, and you can see the existing retaining wall. But going back to
To the photos? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, there's one of the speed tables
Just,
right
just to
there.
remind everybody, a speed table is a wide speed bump.
Yeah, do you remember the dimensions, Joe?
It's, I think, 8 feet from front to back, and then it slopes on either side. So overall, it's about 20-something feet long.
So is that retaining wall gonna be removed to do the sidewalks?
I think that's part of what we're trying to talk about today, if my computer wants to cooperate.
Yeah.
Here's a photograph.
Yeah, I think the photographs, if you can get them up, would be helpful.
Yes.
So Jack, if I could, so I know Craig's gonna try to find the pictures, but if you look at the entrance to Green Drive over to the right-hand side, you're going to see that the guy has a pressure-treated retaining wall. They probably, I don't know if they're 6x6s or whatever, and then it turns into a actually block wall, scallop blocks.
Yes.
And speaking with the homeowner, and if you look at there's granite boundary markers out there, so the boundaries are very, very clear. It's not up for discussion. What's up for always discussion when you're doing these projects is, well, it's been that way for a long time. Now that you want to change it, I mean, then of course if they have realistic expectations, then we should try to meet them. So, in speaking with the gentleman, he's like, well, if we were to backline this thing with granite, if we were to take the shrubs that he has now that are kind of a sightline issue and on the city right away, if we were to actually remove those carefully and place them back onto the property, it's kind of a win-win situation. Now he's getting, we're not forcibly trying to change his land and take away trees and his wall and stuff. We're giving we're giving it a nice sidewalk that looks nice and clean, that is very durable. We take his existing bushes that we can save, and we plant them further back for him. I just think it's I think it's a realistic expectation from a homeowner. Like I said, we deal with this all the time. And if you go and say, well, you know what, it's on the city right away, you can't put it there and all this other stuff. I mean, we're just kind of trying to, bump heads with people that it's very unnecessary. I think if we would do this properly, we're going to gain two things. We're going to gain a homeowner that is very proud of the sidewalks that are there. He wants them there. It's going to give them a nice clean finish, and it's not going to change the contour of his property. And it's also going to allow us to move those bushes back a couple feet, which is going to open up the sideline.
And that's exactly what we talked about this morning, was to have their landscape department look at what we can do to make the sight lines good, but keep the homeowner as happy as we can with the privacy that he's created with the plantings. And so that's what we're looking at right now.
I mean, because we also have to keep in mind this homeowner is the one where National Grid decided to use their new telephone pole materials instead of the standard wooden pole, and they put this huge fiberglass pole that looks like it could support a cell phone tower, right outside of his property. So he's been very understanding, and I think all these things need to mesh. I mean, we're not talking with somebody that's being unrealistic. They're just looking for an ample solution to solve all of our problems. So I'm just here to, I know I wear two hats, being a member of this committee and being the public works superintendent, but I want to definitely advocate for the resident on this, thinking that his expectations are very realistic.
I think we're all on the same page, Mike. Rob?
I was just going to ask Craig that. So this picture is on Rathbun Willard Drive, facing the Green Drive entrance, but it looks like you've got
Correct.
some other photos there.
Yes,
What are-
so I'll walk the committee through some of these photos. So this is the timber retaining wall that Mike was referencing. And just for even a reference point, this stake would be the edge of the sidewalk to make sure we have the appropriate width for the sidewalk with the curbing. The new curbing is replacing this, but it will be in the same location, maintain the existing street width that is there. So what you're looking at is when this photo is taken, it's kind of, if you could connect the line up to here, that would be the line of the sidewalk. And as we work our way around, whoops,
I think one of the issues Craig did mention is that the pinch point where the retaining wall comes into the corner, we're replacing the corner curbing with a curb cut for handicap accessibility. And going, you know, we have a curb ramp that goes down, and then you've got the textured warning strip at the bottom. The space that takes up is basically just the width that we have there, and so we need a little bit more room to get that to work.
so this is a picture taken zoomed out a little bit where you can see the whole wall coming down. There's that stake, and you can see how it narrows up the sidewalk as we're talking about it here. And then going to the next picture, I zoomed out a little bit. You can see this is where it turns, it changes to a stone retaining wall, and it returns. You can see this is the sidewalk here, and right around this area is where it changes from the timber to the stone. And then you can get an idea of the landscaping between this picture and this picture as it relates to what the sidewalk would be. And when we were out looking at it and going to this picture here, is when if you're looking at this picture, this plant right here is this plant right here. So as far as what would be replanting or transplanting, it would be fairly minimal as far as that. And as Mike mentioned, working with them to find a new location for him potentially. And I think that Mike's proposal, we don't take exception to as far as rebuilding that retaining area with a granite curb. If I'm speaking is what you've said, so correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. And having that, have a new curb put in there, especially from a maintenance standpoint, you could tell even by looking these that it does take there's wear and tear on it, because you can't see the stone in the snow. So as far as a long-term solution, that it can be a potential. And then just to give an idea of looking further down the walkway, this is the other side of Green Drive. And again, you can see the existing curb cut. And if you could imagine the line continuing through, you could kind of see it zoomed in here of how that line is affected when you're looking at the sidewalk. So it would be looking to pull it back a little bit here. And then reworking that retaining area with a granite curb, and then again minimal landscaping that would actually have to be moved as part of this. I think the other item, as you mentioned, Jack, is this side where you have these large rhododendrons, and they appear that they have been cut back, but we can't. The extent of it is really at the property line for the most part. But I can't speak to zoning and all that outside of the city's statements as far as viewpoints.
Well, Gary Eurasian pointed out that there is a city ordinance that says that you can't obstruct sightlines even on your property.
Mhm.
And so I think we need to be sensitive to the homeowners, and we need to work with them. I don't think anybody has any question about that, but I also think that the issue that Mrs. Arcese has raised, which is the sight lines in both directions, and I think the sidewalks, because that's an important thing for students. They're certainly not taking a bus if they're coming out of Green Drive or Fairway Drive to get to the high school or even to one of the other schools in the area. So I think that while we're at it, we should take the opportunity to improve the sidewalks, to improve the sight lines, and to also just let everybody know that with the traffic circle and the 4 speed tables, we will be hopefully calming traffic down and slowing it down so that when they're coming out of their neighborhood, they will have a safer exit.
So who is ultimately going to do this replanting in this inner granite? Your department or?
I volunteered to do it, yes.
Oh, okay.
We did volunteer to do it, but again, I don't want to cross lines either. There's a school project and ours, so we volunteered actually to supply the backline granite if it was going to be a financial decision that was going to hold this back. I don't think that's true, and $266 million project. But if it was something, then we volunteered to donate the backline granite and to move the trees.
So I think we need to coordinate between your department, the forestry department, and the project to make sure that all of the appropriate steps are taken.
Sure. I mean, Derek, of course, he's a tree warden, so anytime we're dealing with trees in Attleboro, that's not in Public Works, I have to go through Derek. Usually Derek will either do the work, if he's busy, then he'll give me permission to do it with my crew, but he is a tree warden, so. And you're right, there's a sightline issue created by a homeowner's shrubs or something like that. The city does have a full right to go there and trim that back to a safe level. Again, it's all about how that decision is made and the outreach to the homeowner. Anybody can go there just on Monday after they leave at 9 o'clock in the morning and trim them back 4 feet and see what the reaction is going to be when they get home at 5:30. But if you actually stop that conversation, a couple days or a week in advance to tell them about the expectation, most people are very good with it. I mean, there's a lot of kids in that neighborhood too, so.
Mike, has anyone previously spoken to the neighbors about maybe they said if the city came in and removed those sightlines, maybe they'd be beneficial to them, or are they like having
Yep.
those?
I spoke with the gentleman who owns a house on the right-hand side of it. And, I think one of the concerns he says is you can't, to go out and buy a mature bush right now that is 4 or 5 feet tall,
Yeah.
you really can't. So he wanted to maintain it, but he was like, he was surely, if you want to move it back 3 feet, that's perfect. So I think most of the people here know that they have a sightline issue here. And the only other way to solve it would have been realigning of the roadway, which is not even an option when you're talking the amount of utilities that would have to be, relocated in this area. So,
Is relocating at that 3 feet gonna give the sightlines that are needed?
with the trees that I've seen, yes. Yep.
Yeah, so this issue's been sort of live for about 2 weeks. It really was brought to a head by Mrs. Arcis emailing Mark Cooper around the 4th of July, I think it was. And, we've been looking at this ever since, and there are further conversations that need to be had. But it's an issue that, the fact that we're doing these curbs and these sidewalks now is, been helpful to look at these issues. So I think that's that issue. Rob, do you have more?
Just a question to Andrew's point about the 3 foot clearance. Is that at that stake that's on the property line, or is that, because it looked like from one of the diagrams that
The stake is not on the property line. The stake is out on the city side of the property line.
Edge
Just
of the sidewalk.
there's a buffer between the edge of the sidewalk and the property line.
Yeah, the standard sidewalk width is 5 feet, so when you look at this stake, you're looking from the back of the curb to this stake, it's 5 feet.
Okay, so but from one of the diagrams that you had shown initially, the retaining wall certainly was not parallel to the sidewalk. So when you're talking about when Mike mentions a 3 foot change in that retaining wall, that 3 feet at the street, or
Looking
is
at
that
this way? Yeah, so
there's not as much? I guess my point is there's not as much movement further down the sidewalk in what would need to be changed.
It goes to
right?
the back, it will go to the backside.
Right, but I think what you're saying is that it's really, if you look at the green line there, it becomes worse as you get closer to the entrance to Green.
Right.
And so the movement will need to be tapered, if that's the right word.
If I could, Jack, I mean, the areas, I'm not even gonna call them sidewalk, but the sidewalk areas that currently exist at Green Lane are not compliable sidewalks. They're just made for a walking path, if you will. Once a sidewalk is disturbed, now it has to be brought up to ADA compliance. And so now you got people walking on something that's 2.5, 3 feet wide, and now you're saying we're gonna build something that's 5 or 6 feet wide, all depending upon if there's a fire hydrant, a telephone pole. I mean, there has to be a minimum distance for a wheelchair to get around. So you're going to see, I think that's actually going to open up the sightline too by putting this sidewalk in there that's going to be 5 feet wide, wrapping around to a handicap ramp on both sides of the road. But the ones that are they're existing, like I said, I don't even think they're 3 feet, to be honest with you. But
Yeah, I mean, as Mike was mentioning, is if you took this as I highlighted the wall, is if it's really about taking, as you can see, is it kind of intersects in from here to here, creating that point. Is I think what Mike is talking about is it's sliding building the wall back, like as I just showed, in the standpoint of.
Craig, is that red line that goes around the corner, is
That's
that the property line?
Yep.
Yeah, so you can see that that's what would have shown on the plans the planning board would have approved. And so, obviously, you know, things are, there's a significant distance there between the red line and the green line.
And Jack, I don't want to beat it to death. I wanted to hear. I don't think there's any dispute about. There's clear-cut granite boundary markers on the property. There's no dispute about the homeowners have stuff in the city right away. It's more about. Okay,
Doing right by
well, it's
the
been that way for many, many years. So now, you know, we have a right to do that. I guess at the end of the day, yeah, the city has a right to do whatever they want to do in the city layout. But there's a difference between having that right and exercising that right without having both respectful parties on board, that's all.
Absolutely, I mean, we want to, on a legal basis, you can't get adverse possession against the city, but on a human basis, we need to be sensitive to this person's house that they've lived in for quite a while and that they've spent some money landscaping.
Is the issue on both sides of Green, pushing the landscaping back? Seems like
Yeah.
one side's a retaining wall and landscaping, and the other side is.
The opposite side, the north side, west side,
West side?
doesn't have the same change in grade.
Yeah.
So it's just really moving back laterally and trimming back a little bit more. Doesn't quite come over. See, it's very flat, and you can see that.
The sight line's better on that side.
Yeah, it will have to be trimmed back a little bit to allow, because the sidewalk goes around, it has to curve a little bit at the corner, and then the curb cut is at where it curves at the corner and goes across the street. Otherwise, the crosswalk would be actually, it's a little bit in the street.
And if
Are
you're
there two
looking, this
aprons or
is-
one apron on the corners?
What's that?
Are there two handicap ramps is there one going down across Green and one going across?
On the other side, yeah, so that handicapped children going along that road, or anyone else going along that road, has an accessible route all the way through. And the same thing happens at Burnt Drive also.
So if you're asking, there'll be a slope down with a detectable warning here,
And one there.
here.
Right,
And
but
the one
can you, is it,
Is
that
there one
ramp
further
Willard?
around the corner, though,
Yeah.
that, on Green?
There's no
Beyond that?
sidewalk on Green.
Okay.
Yeah. It turns the corner so that the curb cut can be inboard of the street for safety. So it only turns inboard about 6 or 8 feet.
You can see here.
Yeah.
Okay. That answer your question, Andrew?
Yes. I think you can see.
So the X part is the transition curve that goes down as a ramp, and then you can see the little stipple part is the bumpy strip there, yeah,
Okay.
at the handicap walkway.
All right. Anybody have any other questions or comments on that particular issue? Hearing none. Any construction-related updates on the building, actually, for Steve? I think that's where we were before. Steve, we're still sort of on course for June 16th of 2022, correct?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, good. All right, where do you want to go next, Steve?
Let's just skip down a little bit and do the change order and approval of the contingency transfers first, and then I can go back to just do the general log updates if that's okay.
Okay.
So first up is change order 10, which consists of 6 GCRs that have been approved, reviewed by Skanska, KBA, and Consigli. The first is GCR 025 which is the outdoor classroom. If you remember, this number started off very high, and KBA worked with us and our subcontractors to tweak the design and get this down to a number of $18,910.82. GCR 030 is duct smoke revisions. They were originally designed to be in the curbs of the rooftop units, but based on the rooftop unit size and the curb size, they physically wouldn't fit. So we had to relocate them to the ductwork that feeds the units and add a few more to meet code. That number is $69,700.29. GCR 076, sidewalk revisions at Rathbun Willard Drive. So this is the section south of the property or the job site right now, along like the backside of the football stadium, heading down towards the elementary school that were in disrepair. So we're going to replace those sidewalks on the curb for $45,442.
Steve.
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear, but people are trying to talk in the meeting room here to you.
Oh, I can't.
Sorry, I got his attention though. Can you hear us okay, Steve?
I can now, yeah.
Okay.
You want to hear what we were saying, Steve?
Uh-oh.
Are those all the items on number 10?
No, there's three more.
Okay, because what we were going to say was I think Craig wanted to talk about the outdoor classroom before we vote on this, but why don't you finish going through the list?
Okay. Let's see. GCR 081, wireless accent point revisions. So this was a change in manufacturer at the request of the school, which was a savings of $44,407.18. GCR 084, mowing credit for the Drummond Street fields. Essentially, the city took over the maintenance of this earlier than originally designed, so the subcontractor that owned some work gave back a credit for some additional mowings and fertilizing. So that credit is $7,224.36. And then GCR 091, service yard revisions. So this is where the chiller and other large pieces of equipment are just outside on the ground, right near the loading dock. We had to adjust the fencing and add a gate to maintain clearances for the chiller and the electrical units that are down there. So that total for the entire change order is $91,175.79.
Okay, before we take a motion to vote on that, Craig, did you want to talk about the outdoor classroom, or do you want to defer that?
No, we can just talk about it briefly from a standpoint of my computer's not cooperating, so I'm not going to subject anybody to that pain right now. But it hasn't changed from when we presented it a month or two ago. It was more of reworking, as we had mentioned. It's trying to utilize existing stuff that's in the project to create the outdoor classroom to minimize the cost, and that's really where we ended up. The intent, what we showed you for graphics, remain unchanged, but the small things as far as the sizes of the stone, etc., is really what has changed to get it down to this cost. So that would be the only thing I would really add is why the number has become reduced from what was originally shown. But the whole intent and the design remains unchanged.
Okay. Jerry, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Is there going to be any kind of utility connections out there?
There currently isn't anything planned. We could easily put those in as far as an outlet or something along those lines. It's not far from the building where there are outlets.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something we could include out there. It's all in that. I mean, in speaking, it'd be nice to have whether it's that we could work with the district on what they would prefer.
Bill, you're on, correct?
I'm here.
Would you think it would be important to have a power outlet out there that a teacher could plug into?
I mean, all of our devices are, designed to run off of battery power, but if it wasn't cost prohibitive and it wasn't something that, might easily, get broken, then I'd certainly advocate for it.
Okay. Craig, you'll take a look at that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Jack, if I could.
Mike?
So, hey, Bill, if you're still there, I'm having a hard time with this one, only because I'm not seeing the educational benefit. I realize it's only $18,000, but I can just remember about a month and a half ago dropping my son off and to see all the students outside, only because this high school that we're currently in, the building was so hot, they had to move classrooms outside, so I need to kind of be sold, well, I don't need to be anything, I'm only one vote, but, can we just have a little bit more talk about what they feel the educational benefit of this $18,000 addition looks like? I know we talked about it a little bit, but I've kind of forgot about some of the parameters that you stated to this commission.
Bill, I can help provide you the answer if you want as well.
Sure. I mean, what I'd like to just say to start with is that, Mike, you're absolutely right that this would be a bonus. It's not something that we absolutely have to have. But, sitting in a classroom, the same classroom for 180 days, no matter how beautiful it is and how climate controlled it is, that, it can wear on you a little bit. This would be something that I think a lot of our teachers that have a really good command of their classroom management would want to take advantage of periodically. But I also don't see it as something that they would necessarily be fighting over. I also think that, it is an opportunity. We have advisory, which, if you're not familiar with advisory, it's the new school version of what homeroom used to be, except for the fact that we have it once a week and we have, relevant programming associated with it, whether it's anti-bullying messages or, we need all the kids at one time to fill out the same survey. And, that would be, a great location for advisories to rotate through when the weather was good. But Craig, I'll let you augment that.
Yeah, and if from when we went back, this was something we talked about early in the building, during the building design. We put it on hold just to make sure we got the building and everything remained on budget. But the true nature of it is these are commonplace in schools, purely from what they call biophilic design, and it's our innate nature as humans to want to be in nature and connect with it, and what the effect it has social emotionally on students to be out there, and which is why it's even some things that having so much daylight in the classroom, having views to the exterior even when you're in the corridors, items that we worked on when we were doing the design to always be able to see the outside wherever you are. It's been proven that this stuff increases students' attention span and social emotional from an anxiety, etc. I mean, we all know it whether we realize it or not. When you go, everybody says we need to go take a hike in the woods just to de-stress. That is biophilic in its prime. So again, to speak to that, it's not something that's required. It's a nice to have, but there is a great amount of studies and data that support the benefits of these in educational buildings.
I think also budgetarily, Mike, this is really, the cost in this is really just the pavers, the concrete that's around it, the granite seating that's around it is all reused from other parts of the building that we're not using now. So if we didn't do this, we would delete and credit the granite seats and steps that are in there because we're not using them around that part of the building anymore. So it's actually a fairly equitable reuse of some material that otherwise would be deleted from the project. And for a small amount of money, for $18,000 for pavers, it gives them a really good outdoor use of that space.
Is there gonna be a couple of trees around that to
Oh,
give
yeah.
them some shade?
Yep. There's a berm that goes around it, and if Craig could get his computer to work, there's some trees and plantings that.
Yeah,
That provide
we've
some privacy.
relocated some trees. We've reused everything in the area as part of this is to, and even we had a natural berm that we built it into as to create a hill that was already part of the project.
Provide some privacy from the parking lot side, so it's focused on the school. Yeah.
Are there any potential maintenance issues or more
No,
difficult?
the seating area is granite, which is already in the project, and then it's concrete sidewalks or that area just to define the zone as pavers, and that's
Pavers,
what Joe was
yeah.
mentioning is really the.
It's all
added cost.
hardscape, so it's really nothing really to worry about for maintenance. No mowing or, weeding or anything like that necessary there, because it's all hardscape.
Does that help you, Mike?
Yeah, that does. I mean, I also liked how, how he added it to the use of materials that are currently, would otherwise probably be thrown away or something. So I think that helps. I mean, you can talk about $18,000 being a drop of bucket all you want, but there's some people not
Oh,
going to
no,
feel $18,000 is a drop of the bucket.
it's not, Mike, but originally, when this came out, it was on the order of like 50-something thousand. And we've worked hard to limit the scope, but the last bit of new construction, which would be the pavers, we felt was necessary to provide hardscape that was easy to maintain and was finished, rather than putting in, lawn or grass or some other things that might be more difficult to maintain. So we felt that was really important. Beyond that, the rest of it is just granite and dirt. Yeah.
Well, I think that's very important to say that, we initially, it's something that we thought was kind of too extravagant, for the cost, but now we've been able to pare it down to a cost that is acceptable, if you will, and the reuse of materials of the building, well, that's kind of an easier sell, if you will, in my opinion.
Sure.
People ask why you build a $266 million high school to get kids inside, and also we're thinking about putting them outside. So that's just kind of, this needed a debate. I didn't need to hear the facts again, if you will, before I voted. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
Mike, it's only 260, it's not 266, so.
We're
We
not
don't
done
want
yet.
people in the audience to think
Done
we've
yet.
added
Oh,
$6
come on, be
million.
positive. We're
See,
staying
we're
where we
done.
belong.
But that word "only" is used, advisedly, so, therefore, I think a motion is in order to approve change order 10.
Move to approve.
Second?
Is there any further discussion? All right, I will call the roll. Jason?
Yes. Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes unanimously. Where do you want to go next, Steve?
GCTs, so these are contingency transfers. They do not increase the GMP at all. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of them we are seeking approval of tonight. So I'll blow through those and ignore anyone trying to interrupt me, and then we can talk at the end.
Fair enough.
GCT 017, relieving angle at loading dock. This was actually an oops on our part. There was an RFI that changed the detail, and we did not get it to all the parties involved. So a wall was built. We had to add an angle to help out, help support it. So that dollar figure is $4,709. GCT 024, roof sequencing at walls. So this is building E's. This is the cafeteria building. We went and put the roof down, the field of the roof, and then had to peel it back based on the sequencing of some walls that were installed on top of the roof. But it made sense for us to get the roof down first for water reasons, water protection reasons, and then we peeled it back. So that was a charge to the roofer, $5,850.25 for that work. GCT 025. Stage subfloor insulation. So this was bought out as fiberglass insulation, but it really needed to be mineral wool. So there's a difference in cost, a delta between the two materials. That is $2,716. GCT 027, spray fireproofing at supplemental steel. So we added some supplemental steel in to help support the rooftop units, and it was done after the original spray fireproofing was done. So they had to come back, patch in some areas where we had to weld this steel to the existing steel, and then they had to spray the supplemental steel itself. That's $11,573.90. GCT 028 added surveying ABC building on the south side. So as we were starting to install the metal panels, we resurveyed some of the other materials that had already been installed, the windows, the blocking. We thought potentially we had an issue with how they were installed and some tolerances. So before we went too far, we decided to, we wanted to do some extra surveying and to make sure everything was in plane and in the right spot, and talk to Craig and make sure he was happy with it. So that added some survey costs, and our metal panel sub couldn't work on some of the sections, so they had some staging rental. So the final cost is $7,638. And then the last one, GCT 029, locker manufacturer change. So our original locker manufacturer started to give us some concerns about their workload and being able to meet the schedule and provide us the lockers that we needed when we needed them. So we shifted to a different manufacturer, one that was in the spec, made sure that KBA approved this manufacturer, went through the whole submittal process, and got a much more confident vote from this manufacturer that we would get the lockers when we needed them. And the other manufacturer just was not, we actually had this on 3 other projects. They were just not holding any dates, and we didn't want to deal with that. So there was an upcharge to go to the alternate manufacturer of $45,005.07, but we think it's worth it because we are guaranteeing a delivery date now. So all in, $77,492.22 coming out of the contingency, the construction contingency budget.
Let me add to that, Steve, that most of that $45,000 in the last one related to the increase of the cost of steel, not necessarily a change in the lockers themselves as to, their quality up or down. It's just one of those things that's occurred based on COVID.
Correct. Yeah, great point, Jack. Steel prices have gone up 185% in the past year.
It's a good thing we bought our steel for this building when we did that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is.
One of the things that people, may question us about is the number of change orders, but if you remember, we made the intentional decision at the beginning of this project to kind of design it while we were building it, and that has caused a certain number of change orders, but the decisions that we made because of COVID, because of the increase in the cost of materials, especially steel, have turned out to be excellent decisions, so we should pat ourselves on the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
We will pat you on the back as well.
So therefore, does anybody have any questions on the contingency change orders? Hearing none. Jackie?
Move to approve. Second?
Okay. Jason?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes unanimously. I guess you have some logs you want to go over with us, Steve?
I'll do it quickly. So change orders, potential change requests that are under review, not ready for approval, still vetting out. There's a handful of those. CR 87 miscellaneous finish carpentry credits. This is actually working with Bill Rooney. We had a lot of coat hooks scheduled for certain classrooms that are not going to be installed, so there's some savings there. And then we're tweaking some of the carpentry items within the auditorium. So that is going to be a net credit. Right now it's projecting about $4,602. Item 88, additional HSS framing. So this is that large south elevation, the steel at the end of the cafeteria. We just had to extend some sections there. So that is roughly $16,232.57. Item 89, wire mesh railing revisions. So this was an issue that we had reviewed with the school, the mesh railings that go on the stairs that run from the third floor to the fourth floor. There was potential for someone to be able to scrape their finger if they decided to poke their fingers through the mesh. So we looked at a couple of different options, worked with Jason. Jason brought up some incidents that have happened in the current school. We thought it would be best if we tweaked the design here and blasted the finish of the mesh so that it softened all the joints and kind of eliminated the potential for someone to cut themselves. So that work is roughly $95,862.30. Item 90, soffit revisions at main entrance lobby. Added a light alcove there. That's roughly $12,052.15. Item 92, miscellaneous Miss Metal changes. So there's some low wall supports and some mesh partitions that weren't tagged on the drawings, and since they're a trade bid, the sub didn't own it. So that is $8,116. And then lastly, plumbing revisions at area J and K. A couple emergency eye washes where there's a floor drain that was missing, and then there's some condensate pipe work required in order to match the condensate and the plumbing and the drains. So that is around $25,391. Again, still vetting all these out, nothing ready for approval yet. And then a couple of contingencies. Unless there are questions,
Stop you right there.
I'll actually stop this time.
Anybody have any questions on the items that Steve has just brought up? Okay, go ahead, Steve.
There's two contingency transfers we're looking at. GCT 026 cafeteria millwork grills. These are just some small grills that were never bought out. We thought they came standard with some of the trophy cases or the millwork, but they didn't. They're actually separate, so nobody owns them right now, so we have to buy those. That is approximately $7,500. And then GCT 030 MEP coordination at band and choral. There's some Francola units above the ceiling that we had to rework the piping feeds, and it was one of those things where when we did the second floor coordination where the piping was, everything worked out, and it wasn't until we got to the first floor where we found that we had to adjust the location so they would fit above the ceiling. So there's some piping on the second floor that we have to reroute now. And that is roughly $16,900. Again, both of those we are vetting out, making sure that the pricing is accurate.
Anybody have any questions for Steve on those two items? Okay, allowance log, Steve?
Yeah, so not a ton to report, except that we are staying under the overall allowance value, and that includes cleaning as well. Everything's trending in the right direction. We've had a few things go under and a few go over, but we're netting under budget. We've got a lot of allowances tied up in the demo of the existing school, and then we have others that are tied up in the finishes that are just about to start. So we're going to spend some of it. Are we going to spend all of it? Probably not, but we'll know better in the next few months. But overall, trending in the right direction for allowances.
So would it be fair to say we're on time and on budget?
Yes, it would. That is fair. Yep.
That's the most important part of every meeting we have. So is there anything else that you want to bring to our attention tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you for your complete review as always. Craig, Joe, do you have some things you want to bring up?
Yes, we do. One thing I want to say, just to build on what Steve was talking about, as he reviewed where we're at from a log standpoint and everything is, it's been a pleasure for us as the design team to work with Consigli on this. We're in the very thick of it, as in the construction out there. As you can see, where finishes are going in, and walls are still going up. And so there's a lot of activity, and the communication that we've had working with them has been very successful and able to manage the costs and the exposure for change orders. So we do want to compliment Consigli as far as being an active team member. You don't get that with a lot of contractors, as people know. So it has been very beneficial for you as an owner, their activity and their thoughtfulness as your construction manager. So we do want to make sure that that is noted. Behind closed doors, we'll fight with them, but publicly we'll compliment them. To that point, is there hasn't been a lot of that contentious that you typically would have on a job, as it's been a very friendly, professional working relationship.
So there's two thoughts there. One is that going with the CM at risk turned out to be another very good decision that we can pat ourselves on the back for. And second of all, hiring the right team, from Skanska to KBA to Consigli. So Mike, do you have a question?
I just want to echo the same sentiment. I'm on Attleboro side on the Public Works. I mean, Consigli's been great to deal with. Anytime I call Dave, he answers his phone. We have a good conversation. There's no. I'm always getting the answer. It may not be the one I want, but we're getting an answer every time. They're very responsive, great to deal with, and that makes the whole project a lot easier from the city of Attleboro's perspective when we can actually get in touch with somebody and talk about issues that are affecting the neighborhood. So again, I just want to echo that Consigli's done a great job, as well as KBA and everybody else, but I just want to say that dealing with them on a monthly basis or whatever, they've been great.
Yes. As an additional item, while we're handing out accolades, Project Manager of the Year. I also wanted to mention how grateful we are as your design team that we do have a current project under design, and they'll be coming to tour the progress of construction here tomorrow. Consigli's been grateful to allow us to have them visit, as well as Attleboro Public Schools, being able to sit down with them and lend their experiences and lessons learned to them. So we want to thank Attleboro Public Schools and Consigli for that and supporting us as we work to make education better for other districts as well. Now that we talked about that, we do have a couple items that we wanted to bring to the meeting. We talked about the outdoor classroom. There's been discussions about a potential maintenance addition for storage of lawnmowers, etc., that would be that the school utilizes that have been stored here in a outbuilding that will no longer remain as part of this project. So we're looking at placing an addition onto the hopefully my computer cooperates this time, onto the automotive portion of the building.
While he's doing that, Mark, do you want to elaborate on, or Jason, on, because it's more than just some lawnmower storage?
Yeah, a couple things. This building, we have a small workspace with some tools and machines in it for our maintenance folks who do a lot of prep work. When they go to do some wiring, they have to bend conduit. They do things like that all over the district. They have a fairly large space in the old high school on County Street in the basement that the city has been very kind to let us continue to use, even though it's no longer a school building. But we're losing both of those spaces with the opening of the new school, and there is no replacement. And you certainly can't maintain a 9-building campus without a maintenance space. It just doesn't work. Mike would know that better than all of us. So we've been very grateful for being able to program a space that will allow us to continue to do our work and support the district mechanically.
Yeah, and so we're in the process of putting a design together for that, to be able to find a set of value for it. Consigli's been working with us in this, but in a simple terms, as you could see, the building here is the new automotive space is utilizing as an addition here. Consigli had a great solution as far as by adding onto here instead of doing a standalone is we can reuse this portion of wall that's already owned in the base contract by shifting it out, so that there's cost savings within that. But this is all we've worked with Jason Parento to inventory what equipment they currently have that needs to be stored, and so it resulted into a building of this size. And the intent is also to make it harmonious with the building, so that when what we believe is a nice school from a design standpoint does not have a steel building directly next to it as people approach the building. So it was intention of that. As part of it, it would be placed up against the existing parking area. And so we'd relocate a couple parking spaces as well as provide a fenced-in area for outdoor storage of equipment as well. And so again, we're working through that from a design standpoint, and we'll be able to update the committee further as we go along, and as we work with Jason as well.
Jason, do you want to chime in? I know this is very important to you.
It is, as Craig said, and Mark, we've had a lot of conversations about how to manage workflow, specifically at the high school, but district-wide, once we close the existing building and then, of course, lose the old high school, which we're very, appreciative to be able to use that right now. And this was the perfect solution. I've had several conversations, with Craig and Dave and Consigli, and it looks like this is the best option. It's going to give us exactly what we need. It's going to take away, one of the concerns is that we didn't want a situation where our scissor lifts and other equipment were sitting in hallways or sort of open voids in the building. And this is the best solution to accomplish that while allowing us to maintain that equipment.
Okay, what's the square footage, Craig?
Approximately 950 square feet.
Okay, and so
how much again, I'm sorry?
950 square feet.
950.
Go ahead, Rob.
The two spaces between the old high school and the current building, how does that, is that comparable?
Probably 7 times that.
The new space is larger?
No, this is a very pared down version of that. Yeah, he was saying 7 times smaller, but that's where we're trying to be cognizant.
1/7 the size.
1/7, yeah. We're trying to be cognizant of, again, what his storage needs are. They've been fortunate with what they had before just because it was,
yeah, we have to work smarter, and yeah, the stuff that's been around for 20 years has to go. And but yeah, the old high school space by itself is 6,000 square feet.
Is this going to be adequate, or should more be done?
No, we've committed to being smarter in what we do, and again, grateful for the opportunity to get this.
Mike, do you have a question?
So yeah, I just want to make sure that we're building it big enough, and I know that sounds, people probably don't want to hear that. I've never heard anybody say they built a garage too big. Everybody says they built it. I wish I would have built it a little bit bigger, figuring on future needs. So, and I know Jason's got stuff all over the city, and those poor maintenance guys, what they've had to deal with since this project started. They need to be commended for that. But I just want to make sure that we're putting enough thought into it to make sure it is big enough to accommodate, some future needs on there. It happened at Public Works, a beautiful building, $10 million building down on Lamb Street, and then all of a sudden, the prior superintendent's coming in front of this commission and asking to have portable sheds put on the property. And I think you can remember that. And so that's what we're dealing with. It was a lack of foresight of not only taking care of the existing needs, but what other equipment may be needed in the future. So I want to make sure it's big enough for Jason, that's all. And I'm sure he's glad to hear that.
Craig, what's the dimension along the top of that plan?
This
Yeah.
direction
Yeah.
is about 26 feet.
So I guess the question is there any reason to bump it another 10 feet to the top and get another 260 square feet? Is that something that's excessive? Is that something that would be valuable? You know, just picking up on Mike's point, it seems like moving it 10 feet out would, you know, get an extra 260 square feet if I did the math right.
Yeah, ultimately, we were being sensitive to the cost, as Mark had kind of mentioned, and so Jason would give us an inventory of what he intends would need to store based on existing equipment and planned equipment. And so that's why you see in the gray here is us showing that this is it stacked up the equipment, as well as then some general open work area to the left. And so this is based on that. So if as far as size, we'd really defer to the school department on what is appropriate.
There is a fenced yard to the north of that too, Jack, that will get moved or shrunken a little bit if you made the building
there's
bigger.
an outdoor fenced yard there as well?
Yeah, there'll be one back here.
Oh, okay.
And what would be kept out there?
Defer to Jason.
Jason, what are you storing outdoors?
Really, that would be, you know, a sort of a secondary workspace if we're actively bringing in equipment from other buildings and doing repairs on it. But I certainly wouldn't be against using that space for additional interior building space. Or, you know, your suggestion also, Jack, kind of moving it out 10 feet. You know, as Mark alluded to, this is probably 7 or 8 times smaller than what we're managing. And of course, we've committed to being more economical and sort of managing the equipment, letting things go. But you know, it's going to be challenging at times. So if there's a way to sort of increase any of that square footage without significantly impacting cost of the project, such as, you know, you suggested, then we'd be certainly interested in hearing more about that.
I guess, Ed, go ahead.
It's no bigger than my garage, and it's not, my garage isn't big enough. But I think that if that's going to be used for storage, for work being performed, and for storage of spare parts, you need to make it as big as you possibly can. And it should be enclosed to the maximum ability, rather than having an open area that's not as useful as it would be closed in.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work with the school department to refine this and make sure that it is appropriately sized. And again, we're being sensitive to cost because this is an additional cost to the project that would not be reimbursed from the state.
Has the cost been put together for this yet?
Order of magnitude from a target standpoint, but no, I mean, it's been just big picture costs as we look to understand what is money's in the budget. And Marianne, feel free to interrupt me if I'm speaking out of turn, but is identifying order of magnitude of costs. Again, this is not something that would be done until the existing this building is torn down. So it's being able to create a order of magnitude cost of money that's in the budget currently, and being able to, as Mary managed, make sure that money that is appropriate to the project is used appropriately for this for the project. So part of this is understanding the value as a big picture as the district and the project looks to capitalize on everything that is available for them.
So
just to elaborate a little further on that, every school project, especially of a project of this scale, if you look at the size of the building, et cetera, really, this is an investment in preserving and maintaining your assets. And so if I take the budget hat off, and you absolutely have all the merits and rationale for making this bigger. And I think, you know, it'll be up to us to have some other conversations about vetting what is the actual cost or cost increase to this building. And, you know, everyone is aware that this is not something that would be reimbursable categorically. by the Mass School Building Authority, and that we would need to have really a discussion about how to best fund this. And so it's a work in process, and in concept, I think it's a good exercise for us to go through to look at a larger building.
Yeah, let me just add before I call on you, Rob, that one of the concepts that was important when we built Mike's building and also the water department building was to get everything under the roof. And we built them larger than other people thought we should, simply because we wanted to make sure that every vehicle was under a roof. And it strikes me that if we have an outdoor area, if the cost isn't prohibitive, it would be better to put it underneath the roof than having an outdoor area. Rob, did you have a comment?
Yeah, to your point, Jack, I have been in both of the spaces in the old high school and here, and I like hearing Jason say that we're being more economical with the space, knowing how old some of the stuff and how probably completely useless some of the stuff in those spaces is. But I remember a couple of years ago there was some potential discussion about a shared utility building, obviously much larger than this, but something shared with the school department and other city departments as a capital project. Has that... I hear Jackie chuckling, so I'm guessing that's completely gone to the wayside.
Yeah, that conversation ended.
Okay, all right. I thought it may have just been paused as it related to COVID, but based on Jackie's response.
There's two pots of gold. There's two pots of gold, one for the city, one for the schools. They
Never
don't
the
share
two
very
shall
well.
We've tried for years to get sharing done. It hasn't happened yet.
Thank you.
So, anybody have any other questions or comments?
I do.
Terry?
How far out can you go? How many feet? Jack has said 10 feet. How much further can you go?
We could.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, looking at it, I mean, we could go. The idea is to extend this direction, which is up and down, because then we're reusing the exterior veneer wall, as well as the span of the structure. But we could go potentially, in looking at it, 20 feet maybe, realistically. But ultimately, we would work to determine that. I think we're in that balancing act of size versus cost as well.
Right.
But that would make it half again as big if you went out 20 feet, right?
You know, we're hesitant to expand towards us on the image because it would increase the size of the structure for the roof, and it would raise the pitch of the roof into the windows.
Yeah,
So
no,
kind of that way.
I think capturing indoor what was considered to be outdoor would be something that I would be interested in seeing the cost of it to see if we can afford it, because I think the point's been made that we want things underneath the roof, and we also don't want to be kicking ourselves 5 years down the road for having made the facility too small. Ed, you had something?
Yeah, I think maintenance traditionally in the schools has been underserved as far as the ability to perform it. And I think a facility that we're planning here it's ridiculous not to have an adequate maintenance base, because the building will deteriorate if there's not a sufficient support for the things you have to do to maintain.
There is an
the building.
interior custodial maintenance area in the building at the loading dock. A sizable area. This is in addition to the store outside.
I understand that.
This is more of an equipment storage area.
Fine.
All right, that's an update regarding the maintenance building, maintenance addition.
Can I just interrupt for a second? There's also a design fee that's related to this as well. Joe, did you want to address that?
Sure. Proposal has been forwarded. Is it part of the packet, or I don't know? We would have to perform civil, landscape, architectural, structural, mechanical, plumbing, fire protection, the whole gamut of services for this building, to provide design documents for considered price. Our fee is $34,900 for everything, including our markup, It does come out of the other basic services line item in our contract, which means that there's a pot of money there that we bill against, so it doesn't increase our fee. It's basically part of our fee built in as an allowance to pull for certain items just like this.
And so do we need a vote then to approve that?
I think we typically have in the past with similar ones to this, yes.
Okay. Mary Ann and Anjanette, are you comfortable with that fee?
Absolutely, I think it's fair and reasonable, and they have sub-consultants that are direct out-of-pocket costs for Castle Booze, and I think it's an important move to make at this point in time so that we can have really understand what the potential costs are here for the building.
Okay, so
And I agree.
a motion would then be in order to approve that additional expenditure out of KBA's budget.
So moved.
Second?
Is there any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Jason?
Yes. Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike has left the room. Andrew?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that's unanimous. And then, was there one other matter, Craig, that you had?
Yes, I have one more. I'm sorry, everybody's hearing me talk a lot tonight. It's like we're back in design again. But I hear Bill yawning, yes. As part of, as we've developed and we've been working through the beginning to occupy the building when it comes to FF&E and technology and all of those related items. One thing that is when we're finishing the design, talking about technology, is identifying the technology that will be in the actual building, not the wiring or anything, but the actual hardware and software that teachers would be using on a day-to-day basis. In working with Jonathan and the district, it made sense to look at bringing someone on board to the team that's what they do for a living, and that is working with Jonathan to make sure the right educational technology is provided, in addition to the typical software and hardware that you'd always see, but as well as working with the staff from a professional development and preparing them for the building, so that they can utilize the technology to its maximum ability, as well as, so it's really a concept of, just like we did the educational visioning for the building, doing an educational visioning for technology, and working with Jonathan as far as that. We presented that concept to the district. If Mark wants to talk about it a little more, we'd welcome that.
Yeah, sure. So some of you on this group knows that we have recently, very recently, gotten Chromebooks into everybody's hands. Less recent, but still recently, gotten Wi-Fi into our buildings. We don't have a knowledge base in terms of the application of technology to teaching. So we now have the tools, and you can't learn how to do this without the tools. So the tools are in everybody's hands now, and it's certainly our intent to do a whole bunch of professional development to teach people how to use the tools, and to engage in thinking on what kinds of things we want to do in classrooms and what that's going to require from an infrastructure perspective. We don't have that today. And we only get one shot at outfitting the building from a technology perspective, hardware, right? So we asked Castle Blues to take a look at, finding us some help and doing that translation. So, the hardware is easy, but does the hardware serve the needs of the academic side? And how do you translate that? How do you tell a teacher, okay, we've got this rack of boxes that'll let you do this, right? It's a complicated thing, and it takes a very specific skill set. And, Craig did a great job finding someone for that task.
Yeah, even to speak what Mark is mentioning, and I think it's a common practice that every district experienced in the past year, and realizing some of their deficiencies when it comes to technology with remote learning and all those. And so this is an active thing that all districts are really seeking to do now. And so this was a good opportunity to set the district up for success as we're working on the new building. So we have reached out to a consultant, have talked to them, and are working through a final proposal and contract with them. We don't have a value yet, but in the essence of time, they have given us a rough order of magnitude of approximately 80,000 for their services. That includes the visioning, working with staff to understand what the needs are, and recommendations to Jonathan, and collaborating with Jonathan, as well as professional development for the staff based on the technology that is selected. And in the essence of time, we were hoping that the committee would approve or authorize the department as well to authorize us to execute a contract with this person, but as long as we maintain that value under 80K as a not to exceed number, just because timing is of the essence right now, with trying to get technology by the end of the year to be in the pipeline to have it ready for the school.
And would this again be part of money that's already in your budget, right?
Yes, this would fall from the same line item that we talked about for the maintenance addition.
I mean, there's going to be a huge change, and I think Bill has talked to us about this on multiple occasions. There's going to be a huge change in the way that all of the teachers teach in the new school, and we need to provide them with the tools, but we also need to provide them with the knowledge of how to use the tools. So it certainly makes sense to me that we would want to do this so that they could hit the ground running.
Yeah, Jack, I can't advocate for this enough. There has already been a significant shift in the district and at the high school in terms of more project-based learning and a lot more student-centric approach to educating our young people. But we haven't been able to have the interactive projectors and all those types of things. So as much professional development as we can get as possible would be very beneficial.
So a motion would be in order to approve expenditure from the KBA contract not to exceed $80,000 for the IT educational consultant.
So moved. Second.
Is there any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Jason?
Yes.
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes unanimously. Is there anything else you want to bring up, Craig?
Not unless you have questions for me.
All I have to say is that it's a good thing that the Conservation Commission meeting was canceled tonight for lack of a quorum, because I would have been there for 2 hearings a half an hour ago. Mike?
So Jack, I just want to add a couple of city things. I think it's kind of important for the whole commission to know, because they're kind of directly related to the new high school project. So we do have a kind of a parking situation now that the fields are being used in back of Brennan. Exclusively for, at this time, just for the Attleboro Public Schools, and not to be used by outside entities, as far as I know in my discussion with Mark Cool. But we're having a little problem over with the limited amount of parking that is currently available on Drummond Street. So we're looking into it. We know the situation is only going to get worse, because once they start tearing down the old high school, we're absolutely probably even lose more, because now they're having the players park all over at the tennis courts. So we know the situation is going to get worse before it gets better. So we're going to look for some different avenues. We certainly don't want to shift that traffic over to Brennan unless need be, because why shift the problem from one active school zone to another active school zone? But it's an issue. It's an ongoing issue. We're looking at it, the police department, working with the schools, Principal Rooney, to see what we can do, because we're trying to make it a positive.
too.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mike, we build parking garages too, if you need one.
Thanks, Steve.
You have a 350 space lot down the street.
I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. It's a problem. It's a real problem. I've talked with a couple times with Dave Gorman about maybe, if we could do some different stuff. It's really not in reality. He's kind of tight for space as it is over there. That's number one. Number two is just the new traffic lights that are supposed to be go up at Rathburn Road and Thatcher Street. We had one hearing with the residents in June with the mayor. The second follow-up discussion is scheduled for August 5th. We've kind of tweaked the plans a little bit to eliminate some of the concerns of the residents over, especially in the Black Oak neighborhood over there. But time is of essence, as we hear from everybody. We're getting very tight on the timeline now. Materials are getting a little scarce. So we're still on board to having that light fully functional and operational, I should say, by August. But again, the mayor just wants to make sure that he's reaching out to all those affected neighbors over there to try to appease them in any way that we can. We're still keeping realistic that light is going to be something that's totally new, but it also can't affect all the work that's been done over the years at County Square and other places. So it's just an ongoing project, but I just thought that everybody here should know about it. So we're still on board, because I know a lot of people don't want to see Rathburn Road put all the way through without that traffic light being installed ahead of time. That's it, Jack.
Yeah, Jackie and I can tell you that when we did Brennan in 1995, that we asked for the traffic light then, so it's not a new issue. Mary Ann and Anjanette.
Yes. Anjanette?
Anjanette have some numbers for us?
Yes.
Anjanette, are you still with us?
Steve.
She's sharing her screen now. I can see it coming up. Okay.
Very good.
We can't hear her.
I was going to say she's not
We
muted.
can't hear you, Anjanette.
She can't share her screen and talk at the same time?
Yeah, it's just not coming through.
Her microphone is really low.
Okay. Well, why don't I take? Okay. So what we're looking at here is the June 2021 billing statement. It has all the invoices for the contract amount in the left-hand corner. You'll see previous invoices from the month before and then current invoices. So this current invoice is for $8,508,633. Total invoice to date is $141,745,692. So the balance remaining of work to be put in place is $118,159,064. In terms of percent complete, you'll see that overall we have achieved 55% completion for the project. And you can see the percentages down on the right-hand side, where it's 54% for the OPM. It's the 100% cost for the feasibility study. Castle Blues is 77% complete and 100% again for the feasibility study. 94% complete for Consigli for pre-construction. And then you can see the percentages complete in total for Consigli is 54%. So we're on budget and on schedule, and looking at this document is a great way to inform where we are with progress. If we weren't at 55% complete, we would be concerned if it was a lot less. So you can see that we're approaching the top of the bell curve here in terms of work in place. It's a significant amount of money, but also work that has been accomplished over the last 30 days. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that you want to bring to our attention tonight?
Just to say that, not to have such a love fest between all the consultants here, but I did want to say that in Sigley and including the subcontractors, I am really pleased and impressed with the quality of work and workmanship, womanship in the field. I mean, the work is really, it's solid, it's neat, and I just really appreciate the efforts of the whole team, and including Castle Blues, that it really has taken a lot of effort from a lot of people to make this happen.
Mary Ann, if I might piggyback that to some extent, I was fortunate enough to be asked to be the guest speaker at the first in-person Rotary Club luncheon that they've had probably in 15 months. And as Jim Jones can attest, it was an overflow crowd. They expected 40 and they had probably closer to 50. And I spoke about the project and gave them some updates and talked to them about, a lot of partnerships that are available, between the high school and our local businesses, but certainly gave the design team, the entire design team and construction team, a lot of credit. And I just thought that everybody on this team should be aware that the feeling at the Rotary Club was very positive.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, should we go on and pay the bills?
Yes.
All right, so we have a Skanska bill for $95,710, Castle Booze for $110,020. Mary Ann, you're recommending that?
Yes, I recommend payment.
And the consigley bill is $7,864,461.60. You're recommending that?
Yes, I do.
And Briggs for testing, $10,633.50. Jeremy, you're okay with that?
Yeah. I had sent an updated invoice. I'm getting a lot of
I didn't get an email before I left. Are there some other bills or some other numbers?
Yes, there are. I circulated it after I got some things approved on Skanska's end and after I talked with Anjanette. It should be in everybody's inbox. There's an Intertech, a Briggs, and an STV bill for Intertech for $1,850, a Briggs bill for $12,843, another Briggs for $10,633, and an STV Move Management for $344.25. Intertech Briggs are all reviewed by Skanska before they get on here, and then and STV as well. So Skanska has already approved and recommended those, and then they got onto the agenda. I apologize for the late breaking end of the fiscal year here. It's been a little crazy.
I can understand. I guess a motion is in order to approve what's on the screen rather than what's on the agenda I printed out.
Move to approve. Second.
Is there any discussion? We'll call the roll. Jason?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So that's unanimous. Our next meeting is August 11th here and virtual for those who need. Rob, do you have a question?
Not a question, just a quick statement. The group that is coordinating the farewell of the current high school will be announcing a couple of dates for next year for folks to come do one last walkthrough of the current building. One daytime event and one evening event, and we'll be announcing details soon. The daytime event will likely be in April. The evening event will likely be in June, right around the end of the school year.
Of 22.
Rob, daytime is March.
March, thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so our next meeting is August 11th. The September meeting is going to deviate because the first Wednesday is the first of the month, and they asked us to delay our meeting to the 15th from the 8th. So we will be meeting on August 11th and September 15th. I hate to talk about September because I don't want summer to end so quickly. But those are the dates. So does anybody else have anything they want to bring up before we adjourn? Then I would say a motion would be in order to adjourn at 7:15.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Jason?
Yes. Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
When did
Andrew?
you say
Yes.
August would
I
be
vote
the
yes, we are adjourned.
11th.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Good night.